Ni hao, hi everybody. You know, there is so much to like about California. I mean, we have wonderful weather, gorgeous scenery, amazing beaches, world-class cities and attractions, and part of our appeal is one of the best public higher education systems in the United States. Hi, my name is Mark, and today I'm going to talk to you about high school to college in California, how to understand all of your options, and getting ready to apply for college in this age of COVID. So a little bit more about me. My name is Mark, and I am a career counselor for college students at Los Medanos College in Pittsburgh, California. That is a community college. I've been working with college students doing advising and counseling for almost 20 years. I have experience working in the California Community College system, the California State University system, and the University of California system. In this presentation, I'm only focusing on the three public higher education systems. Now, if you're new to California, or if you're the first person in your family to go to college, then understanding all these three systems and how they relate to each other can be pretty confusing. So hopefully by the end of this presentation, some of that confusion will be gone for you, and you'll also have a better idea of which one might be the best fit for you and your particular goals, and also how to make yourself the best qualified applicant you can be. So first, let's talk about the California Community College system. The California Community College system is the largest community college system in the United States. There are 116 campuses right now, serving more than 2 million students. That's pretty amazing. No matter where you are in California, there's probably a community college campus within 30 minutes drive or less from wherever you live. The mission of the community college system is very simple: putting students first. Everything at a community college is student-focused and student-centered. The programs, the services, everything. So it's a wonderful opportunity for students to get all kinds of support to be successful in college. Admission to the community college system is very easy. You just have to be 18 years or older, or a graduate of high school. That's it. You fill out the application, your application is processed, and you're admitted. As far as academics go in the community colleges, it's actually very diverse. Community colleges are known for offering career technical programs. These would be programs that lead to a specific type of job or career. Nursing, for example, or emergency medical services, or fire science and fire technology to become a firefighter, or auto mechanics, electrical technology, and those sorts of things. There are lots and lots of different programs that we put into the category of career technical education. Now, in addition to that, the community colleges offer great academic preparation for transfer to traditional four-year university campuses. These are associate's degrees that focus on both general education, which is a broad distribution of courses, to major specific courses in traditional fields like psychology, sociology, history, English, biology, chemistry, physics, computer science, engineering, and all of these different fields that give a good firm foundation for students to then go on to a university and successfully complete a bachelor's degree. There are even a few community colleges in California that offer bachelor's degrees. There aren't too many of them, and the degrees that they offer are in fields that are not offered at any other public university system. Community colleges also offer self-enrichment and life skills courses. These would be courses that members of the community would want to take in order to improve their lives in some way. It might be something like financial management, or a technical skill, like maybe how to use email for elderly people who aren't very proficient with computers, and so forth and so on like that. As far as career preparation goes, the California community colleges offer diverse career services. In the campus where I work, we have a staff of 3 people in career services. We help students when it comes to choosing a major or identifying a career pathway that would be a good fit for them. We do that by offering different types of assessment instruments and counseling and advising. We then help students figure out what their long-term goal would be. That would be the goal that they want to achieve after they leave our campus. We also help students with their job search prep. Now, this involves developing a resume, preparing for a job interview, applying for jobs, networking in order to learn about different job opportunities, and also doing informational interviewing with employers. And that's why employer connections are important to us, because helping students connect with people who are actually working in the fields they're interested in is a really valuable way for them to learn more about that field, find out if it's a good fit for them, and in the future have someone to contact for a potential opportunity. As far as student life goes, for community colleges, there are clubs and organizations on all the campuses. There's something for everybody. There's leadership opportunities by way of student government or serving in these clubs and organizations. There are opportunities for community engagement. That would be volunteering and serving the community. In addition to that, most community college campuses have outlets for students who want to participate in sports or performing arts. So let's talk about some of the pros and cons of community college. First of all, the pros. Well, it's the lowest cost option. The tuition right now for a California resident in a California community college is $46 per unit. That's about $1,100 per semester for full-time study. And that's among the lowest cost education, public education in the United States. So it really is affordable for most Californians, and there are options for students from low-income backgrounds to attend community college and not pay any tuition or fees. It's very accessible. There are no test scores required. You don't have to submit your high school transcript. It's just if you're 18 or older, or if you graduated high school and can prove that you graduated high school. The community colleges are very well articulated with the 2 other public higher education systems in California. That's the CSU, or California State University, and the UC, or University of California system. So articulation means that the courses taken at community college easily transfer into campuses in those 2 other systems. So there are a large number of California community college students who do transfer to universities to finish a bachelor's degree. There's a lot of personal support at a community college campus. The classes are small, and the staff to student ratio is low. That means that students can find someone who can help them and develop a relationship with that person. And that's a really special thing at a community college campus. Low faculty to student ratios mean that classes aren't very large. Generally speaking, most classes are 30 to 35 students. Some are even smaller. And that means that students have an opportunity to interact with faculty more often. And many community college faculty have earned their doctorate degree. So students are actually learning, taking classes from faculty who have a terminal degree in their field and are well respected in their field. And these faculty are devoted to teaching students instead of doing research and publishing articles, which takes up a lot of time. Now, a few of the cons for a community college. First of all, most community colleges don't offer on-campus housing. There may be 1 or 2 exceptions in California, but not that many. Therefore, community colleges are commuter campuses, so most students drive in or take public transportation. They take their classes, and then when their class is done for the day, they pretty much leave campus. Of course, there are always exceptions, but that's more the rule than the exception. That means that there's usually less identification with campus culture. A lot of people who attended community college probably can't tell you what their community college mascot was. Our mascot at our college is the Mustangs, a type of horse. but I wonder if a lot of students who attended my college can remember that our mascot is a Mustang. So those are just a few of the cons of a community college. But the quality of instruction and the quality of education is just as good as any other campus because, like I said, many of the instructors at community college have already earned a PhD or a doctorate degree in their field. Many have worked in their field professionally, and that makes them excellent sources of information and a good networking opportunity for students. Next, we're going to talk about the California State University system. Now, the California State University system is the largest public university system in the United States with 23 campuses serving about 482,000 students. So that's a lot of students and a lot of campuses. There's probably a CSU campus or CSU satellite campus within reasonable driving distance of any town or city in California. Admission as a first-year student is not too vigorous for basic admission. Pretty much students who finish their A to G courses from high school with strong grades. Now, A to G courses are those basic courses in English composition, U.S. history, natural sciences, foreign languages, and so forth that students have to complete. And any college, any high school guidance counselor would be able to explain the A to G course distribution to students. ACT or SAT scores are submitted. I know that right now there's a lot of transition in California's higher ed system about ACT and SAT scores, but the best recommendation is for students to go ahead and take ACT or SAT exams, and then if they have a score, to submit them. If the school requires them, then they will have met the requirement. If the school doesn't require it, then their score could help them get a bump up if it's a good score. And of course, graduation from high school with a diploma. Now, there may be other admissions requirements. At the end of the presentation, I'll show you some useful websites where you can go to research all of these requirements, and do please talk to your high school guidance counselor about any questions that you find after you've looked at those websites. Now, being a community college counselor, my expertise is helping students who want to transfer to a CSU or a UC campus. So I can speak to the transfer requirements with more authority. To be a transfer student, a student would attend a California community college and earn a minimum of 60 transferable units. A unit is just an amount of credit that each course is worth. Most courses are worth 3 units of credit. So 60 transferable units is approximately 2 years worth of full-time study, where each course is a transferable course. The minimum GPA required is a 2.0. That's a C average GPA. Impacted campuses and programs do look for a higher GPA. We will discuss what impaction is in just a little bit. Students have to complete general education courses, and that includes the Golden Four. The Golden Four courses are 1 semester of freshman English composition, 1 semester of critical thinking composition, 1 semester of transferable math or quantitative reasoning, and 1 semester of oral communication, which is generally public speaking. So those 4 classes are called the Golden Four. The CSUs also look at major preparation coursework, since students do apply for specific majors as a transfer student. So they're expecting some foundation in the major so that the student is ready to take upper division or junior, senior level classes when they transfer. There could be additional requirements for some high demand programs. Nursing, for example, is extremely impacted and very selective. So nursing programs, among many others, will have additional requirements. The academics at CSU campuses focus really more on learning about existing theory and how to apply that theory in practice. Most programs are therefore more career focused. The goal of most CSU programs is for a student who receives a bachelor's degree to be ready to go into a professional track of some sort, whatever profession they have chosen to do. There are a great variety of innovative programs at CSU campuses, with 23 campuses and some campuses enrolling 25,000 students. That's a lot of programs and a lot of students. So the best thing to do is to simply use the resources to research all the different programs. But I'll just give you a few examples. San Jose State University in San Jose offers a bachelor's degree in aviation, in which students learn and become licensed commercial pilots. It is the only program of its kind in a public university in California. The California Polytechnic Universities, that would be Cal Poly Pomona and Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, both offer a Bachelor's of Architecture, or a BArch. This Bachelor's of Architecture leads to licensure for architecture. They are the only two public universities in California that offer such programs. No other campus in the CSU or UC system offers that kind of program. So there are a lot of innovative programs and very much focused on helping students get started in their chosen career pathway. Career preparation at CSUs is excellent. Every CSU campus has a career services office with professionals that can help students with major and career choice, with job search prep, including all of those things I mentioned previously: resume, interview, networking, and so forth. And then the CSUs also offer great job fairs. I was once a career counselor at San Jose State University. We had about 8 career fairs every semester, and in our career fairs we had some top-notch employers visiting, including Cisco Systems, Google, PlayStation, and many other top employers from the Silicon Valley area. So employer connections are very valuable for students, because let's face it, why do students go to college? They go to college to choose a career pathway and get started on that career pathway and have a better job after they graduate than they would have without a bachelor's degree, right? So employer connections are very valuable on all of these campuses. Student life at the CSU campuses is more like your traditional college experience. There are residence halls, there are events going on, lots of clubs and organizations for students to get involved in. There are collegiate athletics. Some have football, some have basketball, baseball, track, other types of sports. There are performing arts by way of orchestra, band, theater productions, and more. There's a lot of things that go on these campuses, and all of these things are valuable for the student experience, because research shows that students who get involved on their campuses, not just taking classes and making good grades, but really getting involved on their campuses, actually do better in the long term and are more successful in life after they leave campus. So I hope that all of you will get involved on your campus. Don't just be a bookworm. Don't just be a nerd, but be a nerd who gets involved and has a good time on campus, but balances all of that with good performance in your classes and good academic performance, because it all works together to help you achieve your career goals in the future. So here are some pros and cons for the CSU campuses. One pro of CSUs is that they have a lower than average public higher ed cost. I'm not sure what the tuition is right now for a CSU campus, but it is lower than the national average. So the CSUs are an affordable option for California residents. It's very accessible to any qualified California resident. There are minimum qualifications for sure, but There's almost always a campus that a student can get into as long as they meet the minimum qualifications. Again, there are campuses throughout California, as far north as Humboldt in far northern California in the redwood forests, and as far south as San Diego State in San Diego, California. The CSUs are very well articulated with California's community colleges, so transferring from community college to a CSU campus is easy and seamless. There's a lot of campus engagement, therefore strong identity. Students who attend a CSU campus will develop an identity as a Spartan or a pioneer or whatever mascot their campus had. There are also great opportunities to connect with faculty. Class sizes at a CSU campus are generally smaller than they are at a UC campus. And again, all full-time faculty have a terminal degree in their field. They have a PhD or a doctorate degree. So students are having the opportunity to learn from these individuals who have a terminal degree, and many of whom have actually practiced their field. They've been engineers or they've been computer scientists or whatever, and have practiced in the field and are now teaching, and that's a really valuable opportunity for students. The faculty at the CSU campuses are generally more devoted to teaching than they are to research. They really are student focused. I think they're there because they like to help students learn, and that's a big pro for students. And of course, there are the career prep opportunities, including the employer engagement. A few of the cons, well, we've got impacted campuses and programs, and we're going to talk about that in more detail later. And one thing about the CSUs is that they do give an advantage to high school students who have graduated from their local service area. Here's an example. I'm in the Bay Area of San Francisco. The two CSU campuses that are closest to where I live are CSU East Bay and San Francisco State University. Now, those two campuses consider schools in the area where I live to be part of their service area. So that means that high school graduates from any of these high schools locally will get a little bit higher consideration than a student, say, from San Diego or Fresno or Santa Barbara or something like that. Okay, so that could be a con, but it could also be a pro. If you're a high school student who wants to stay closer to home and go to a CSU campus, then you will be considered to be part of the local service area, and that kind of gives you a bump in your eligibility index. So now let's talk about the University of California system. This is probably the one that's most well known. I mean, most people in the world have heard of UC Berkeley or UCLA. So let's talk about the UC system. There are 10 campuses in the system, but only 9 of those are available for undergraduates. The one that is not available for undergraduate students is UC San Francisco, which is a medical sciences university. So you have to already have a bachelor's degree to be admitted to UCSF. The UC system serves about 280,000 students, so that's about half as many as the CSU system. Now, again, I am not as knowledgeable about freshman admission as I am about transfer student admission, but I'll give you a few points to consider, and then, like I said later, I'll show you a slide that has some resources, websites you can visit to get more information, and always, always, always consult with your high school guidance counselor, who is the expert on these types of things. So again, you have to complete those A to G courses from high school with strong grades. Again, those are courses like your English literature and U.S. history and natural sciences and math and so forth. Okay, you do get additional points for completing honors courses. Again, ACT or SAT scores if submitted. I know that there is discussion in the news about whether these are going to be required or not. I'm going to defer to your high school guidance counselor for details about that. Other academic coursework is considered. For example, if a student is interested in being a biology major, so they took some extra biology in high school. AP or IB or previous college coursework is also a factor. Now, the different campuses have different rules when it comes to AP and IB scores. So those can get very, very tricky. One school might accept your AP score and give you credit. Another school might not. One school might apply that AP score toward a major requirement if that score is related to the major you want to study. Another school might not. So don't put too much, don't depend too much on your AP IB scores. They will help you with general unit requirements for graduation. They may or may not help you meet major specific requirements. It really all depends on the school that you choose to go to. So early communication with your target schools is very important. If you're a high school junior, you should start communicating with admissions officers at the campuses you're interested in attending now. Don't wait until your senior year. Do it in your junior year or even your sophomore year. Early communication is good. You do need to be in the top 9% of your class at the end of your junior year to be considered. And there are additional criteria for admissions. Now, the UC campuses take a very holistic approach, and we're going to talk more later about how to make yourself a very competitive candidate, but keep that in mind. It is not just a numbers game to them. They look at lots of different things in a college applicant to make sure that you're a good fit for their campus and that the program that you want to do is a good fit for you as well. Now, if you want to transfer to a UC from a California community college, again, you need at least 60 transferable units with a minimum GPA of a 2.4 on all of that coursework. A selective campus or program will look for a higher GPA, naturally. You do need to complete some general education courses. These include English, critical thinking, math, and 4 courses from at least 2 of these 3 areas. And those 3 areas are arts and humanities, social and behavioral sciences, and natural sciences. So the point here is that if you're looking at majoring in a STEM field and you're all about math and sciences, that's wonderful. Good for you. But you still need to have at least 1 or 2 arts and humanities classes or social and behavioral sciences like psychology or sociology. You cannot get away with just doing math and science classes. Okay. Your major preparation coursework and grades is a big factor as a transfer student to a UC campus. And then, of course, there are additional requirements for some selective programs that you would learn about while you're at the community college. Academics at UC campuses tend to focus more on the discovery of knowledge, finding out things and creating new theories and thinking about existing theory very critically. Okay? Most programs are focused on helping you prepare for graduate or professional school, not necessarily preparing for a specific job or career, but to go on and get a master's degree or a PhD or to go to law school or medical school or whatever and become a professional after that point. So do keep that in mind, that you're learning a lot of theoretical foundation in most UC programs. Of course, there are exceptions, but in most UC programs, that's kind of the goal of the program. Therefore, the programs tend to focus more on traditional academic areas. I'm not saying that there aren't innovative programs at UCs, because there are, but it's a lot of traditional, like physics and chemistry and biology and history and political science and literature and things like that. So keep that in mind when you're choosing your education at a UC campus, that you will be exposed to a lot of theory and a lot of new knowledge, but the focus will be more on learning for learning's sake and less on learning so that you can apply for a certain job and go in a certain career pathway, right? Career preparation at the UCs is just like any other public campus. There's major and career choice, job search prep, and then employer connections with job fairs and top employers. Student life is similar to UC to any other university. There's student clubs and organizations, leadership opportunities, activism. There are campus events to attend. There's athletic events, performing arts, all kinds of things going on at these campuses all the time. Not so much in the age of COVID, unfortunately, but previously, and then again someday once we're able to go back to in-person classes, there will be things going on. But even these days, there are virtual events and virtual meetings and virtual ways to get involved with campuses. So let's talk about some pros and cons of the UC system. Of course, one of the pros is that in the UC system, you have some very highly rated campuses and programs. Like I said previously, people all over the world have heard about UC Berkeley and UCLA. A UC Berkeley professor was one of 2 women who recently received a Nobel Prize in chemistry for some work that she did, I think, with a French professor on something related to genetics that's way above my head. So there are world-class campuses and programs at many of the UC campuses. Another pro is the Blue and Gold Opportunity Plan. Now, this is something that a lot of people don't know about, but this is a fantastic opportunity for qualified students to attend a UC campus without paying any tuition. So if your family makes $80,000 a year or less, then you qualify for a waiver of your tuition. If your family makes from $80,000 to $120,000, then you get a 50% reduction on your tuition. This makes a UC education very, very affordable, and all of the UCs participate in this. So this is something you should look into as a student to see if you and your family can qualify for the Blue and Gold Opportunity Plan. Another thing that's really great about the UCs is that all of them except Berkeley, LA, and San Diego offer a transfer admission guarantee for most programs on their campuses. So what this means is that if you attend a California community college and you meet all of the transfer requirements, including general education, major preparation, minimum grades, and minimum GPA, and you sign the transfer admission guarantee agreement with one of the participating UC campuses in their program, then that campus promises that you will be admitted. It doesn't matter how many other students apply, doesn't matter what their GPAs and grades were, as long as you met the requirements of the transfer agreement, you're guaranteed a spot on that campus. So if you did California Community College for 2 years, transfer admission guarantee to a participating UC campus, and you qualified for the Blue and Gold Opportunity Plan, you could practically get your UC degree almost free and very, very seamless and much less stress than being competitive for those other programs. So that's something that you should think about if you decide to start your journey at a California community college. Now, a few of the cons on a UC campus is, well, they can be very selective. Not all programs and not all campuses. There are programs at UC Berkeley that are quite open. There are programs at UC Merced that are very selective. So it really depends on the campus and the program, but because there are only 9 campuses in California, they've got a limited number of students that they can serve, so they have to be very selective. It is the most expensive public higher ed option in California. I don't know how it compares to the rest of the United States, but it is the most expensive public option. There's a high faculty to student ratio at most UC campuses. Some students think that they'll go to UC Berkeley and that they'll learn from the most famous professors. No, you'll probably sit in a classroom with 500 other students You might get to listen to a lecture from that famous professor, but he or she will probably be standing on a stage with a television camera pointed at them, and you will never get to have a personal interaction with that professor. So be ready for very large class sizes and for smaller classes to be taught by graduate students, not by full professors. The faculty at UC campuses are generally more focused on research than they are teaching. They are there to do their research, to write their papers, to publish their articles, to make discoveries, and to bring recognition to the campus. That's all well and good. That a lot of good things come from that, but it means that undergraduate students in particular don't generally get a chance to interact much with faculty. Also, students have reported that it can be a very, very competitive atmosphere, especially on campuses like Berkeley, Los Angeles, maybe even San Diego, that because the selectivity is so high and the students are very competitive, that the atmosphere sometimes is not very congenial, not very collaborative. And I think some students were disillusioned by that. In fact, in the past, I've had students who left UC Berkeley to go to a different university to finish their bachelor's degree because they couldn't deal with that pressure and they didn't feel like it was a positive direction for them to be going. Now, I'm not saying Berkeley's like that. I actually worked at UC Berkeley for a short time and I loved working there, and the particular department I was in was amazing, and I really had a positive experience there with everybody that I met, both the faculty, staff, and the students. So I think it really depends on the program and really depends on the individual. If you do choose to go toward that direction though and go for a very selective and competitive program, do practice good self-care and understand that you might encounter individuals who won't care who you are, where you're from. They won't care about you as an individual. So practice good self-care, find your group, find your tribe when you're there so that you have a good support network when you're studying there. Okay, so I've been mentioning impaction and selectivity throughout this presentation. So what does that mean? Well, impaction is pertaining to CSUs and selectivity to UCs, but basically it means the same thing, and it's when there's more qualified applicants than the campus or program can accommodate. Therefore, the program or the campus has to raise their admission standards. So how do you increase your odds of admission to an impacted program or campus or a selective program or campus? Well, first of all, a strong GPA goes without saying, especially in your A to G courses, your honors courses, and your AP and IB courses. The higher the grades, the better, because that's just going to make a more favorable impression. Now, of course, in addition to that, you've got the completeness of and the grades in major preparation coursework. So if you're a transfer student, that's especially important. Or major relevant courses if you're going to be a first-year student. So let's say you want to major in history and you took 4 years of history in high school. Having excellent grades in those 4 years of history classes would show the campus that you're very serious about being a history major, right? Completing program-specific requirements is important too. For example, if there's a community service requirement or a work observation experience, like many nursing programs or health science programs might require. So completing those things is important as well. When you prepare to apply, you should be thinking about your academic preparation. So your A to G courses or your general education and your major prep courses, depending on whether you're first year or transfer. Your GPA is especially important in major relevant classes. And then, of course, your AP, IB, and honors courses grades are important too. Think about your co-curricular activities. Think quality over quantity. I think some students think that the longer their checklist is, the more impressive that looks, but it's really not. It's more important to have 1 or 2 meaningful long-term experiences than it is to have a checklist of a lot of like one-day or half-day experiences. So when you're thinking about volunteering and community service, think about quality over quantity. and try to engage with community issues, whether it's environmental, social justice, racial justice, whatever it might be. Think about things that would help you engage with your community, because these selective programs and campuses really like to see students who have a broad knowledge of the world around them, and especially what's going on in their community. So try to show some community engagement. Also, your life experiences and circumstances can speak a lot. For UC campuses in particular, like I said earlier, they take a holistic approach. It's not just a numbers game for them. They want to know your story. So overcoming personal challenges or having a unique family background or a story related to your family really resonates with these UC campuses. And so be ready to tell your story in the application. So here are my recommendations as a college counselor, all right? Your GPA, high is good, but perfect is unnecessary. Don't obsess about having a perfect 4.0 or 4.5 or whatever GPA. There are a lot of students with perfect GPAs that get denied admission, and there are students who have borderline GPAs who get an offer because of other factors, all right? So don't stress over having a perfect GPA. In your coursework, diversify. Don't hyper-focus. All right, it's good to know what it is that you like to study. It's good if you know already what it is you want to do. That's great. But take a diversity of courses. Learn as much about the world around you as possible, and especially about the people in that world. So diversify your coursework. In your co-curricular activities, try to focus on community engagement or social and environmental justice. Think globally, but act locally. I think that that's going to be impressive to admissions application readers if they see that your activities outside of the classroom, outside of studying, have been related to meaningful topics and issues. Also, don't underestimate the value of part-time work. When you have a part-time job, you learn a lot of skills that these colleges and universities really value. Things like good time management, how to be cooperative and collaborative, how to follow directions, how to show up on time. Those are all really good skills to carry with you anywhere in life, but part-time work is such a good teacher. So if you can manage it and do so safely, consider having a part-time job, because that's going to look good on your application as well. And when it comes to awards and honors, think about what's personally meaningful to you, no matter how grand or small it might be. If you're really good at piano and you won the Van Cliburn piano competition, well, that's great. Good for you. Congratulations. But if you won a very small local piano competition after you had a year of physical therapy because you injured your hands, and then you worked really hard to go back to the piano and play, and you won 3rd place at a competition, that's a much more impactful story because it's very personally meaningful to you, all right? So don't think about the name or the scale, but think about what's meaningful to you, and that story is going to resonate with application readers. More recommendations. Have a plan B and a plan C and maybe even a plan D, so that you have something to be in that you'll be happy with no matter what happens. It's great if your plan A happens. Who doesn't want that, right? But the reality is that plan A doesn't always pan out. So be happy with plan B or plan C or even plan D, okay? Just be yourself on your applications and apply to campuses that match who you are. Don't try to make yourself be something that you think a campus or program is looking for. That's pointless. That makes you a fake. So even if you do deceive them and end up in that program, you're just a big fake there. So look at campuses and programs that really match who you are, because that's where you'll be happiest. And if you're happy in your campus life and in your program, you'll be successful at school, no matter where that's at. And if you're successful at school, you're going to be successful in your career. I really believe that. And so really look for what's a good match for you personally. In your essays and in your personal insight questions for the UC application, you tell your story. Don't tell somebody else's story, your parents or your grandparents or your auntie or your uncle. Tell your story and talk about your challenges, your successes, your failures, your lessons learned. That's what they're interested in reading about. Also, I suggest that you start working on your PIQs now if you are thinking about going to a UC, because those PIQs are a valuable piece of the application. So you can go to admission.universityofcalifornia.edu and just search for PIQ, and you'll find what those questions are. So, some recommendations for this age of COVID, all right? Most of us are learning online right now. Some schools have gone back to in-person. Some it's kind of a hybrid approach. It's all like craziness right now, all right? So here's some good recommendations for this age of COVID. So first of all, I want you to take your online learning very seriously. Take it very seriously. You manage your time well. That's the biggest factor in students not being successful in online learning, is just poor time management. So use a calendar, use a schedule, write important things down. Second, be responsible for yourself. Don't depend on your parents to tell you everything or remind you of everything. Don't expect your teachers to constantly be on you, because they're not with you as much, right? Because now you're in an online environment. You have to take responsibility for yourself. It's time for you to grow up and be self-responsible. And responsible people seek help when they need it. They don't let things be unspoken, or they don't ignore things, or they don't think that they can make it better. You get help when you need it. If you need tutoring, get tutoring. If you need counseling, get counseling. There are home visits possible with tutors who go and travel to homes and help students be successful with their online learning. Whatever help it might be, get that help to make you successful in your online learning experience. There are also ways that you can find to volunteer virtually and safely. Now, you can start with just local charitable organizations in your community. If you're part of a faith community, that's a good place to start, like a church or synagogue or temple, whatever. But a really good website that I go back to all the time is volunteermatch.org. Volunteer Match can help you find safe, even virtual ways for you to volunteer and build up your community service in this age of COVID. So there's a lot going on now. If you have a car and you can drive, even delivering meals to shut-ins, things like that, there are ways that you can do things that are safe, that still serve the community. So look for those opportunities. And then finally, I want you to think about this. 5 years from now, you're graduating from college and you're interviewing for your first job, and the employer asks you, how did you respond to the COVID crisis of 2020? Now, are you responding by shutting yourself off and just staying at home and playing video games and not really taking your online courses seriously? Or are you doing well in your online courses? Are you finding virtual ways to volunteer, or safe ways to serve your community? Are you staying involved? Are you helping your younger siblings be successful? What are you doing positively to respond to the COVID crisis? Because the way that you answer that question might tell an employer what kind of employee you will be and whether or not you would be a good member of their team. So think about that question now. Prepare for that question, because I guarantee it, employers are going to be asking that question in job applications, in job interviews in the future. So here are some useful resources. You can pause the video and write these down. These are all useful things. Any question you have about freshman admissions or transfer student admissions, AP exams, ways to get involved, you can find on these websites. Just go to the website and in the search bar, put in a keyword. you'll find your answer, I'm pretty sure. I am on LinkedIn, so I encourage you to create a LinkedIn account if you haven't already and to start building your network. If you find me on LinkedIn and would like to connect with me, just send a little message and say, I watched your video on high school to college in California and I would like to connect with you, and I'd be happy to connect. All right, thanks for watching my video. Bye-bye.